Yeah, it's rich in bubbly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And welcome to season 2 of Lorena's Lunch Table, which coincidentally, Happy New Year to all of you. So glad you are here. So thankful for your support. And we are starting this off with a bang. Absolutely with a bang. So we're so glad you're here. And let me bring up my co-host, Fat Steven Seagal. Happy New Year to you.
Am I on?
You are on.
Well, Happy New Year. And yeah, I can see me too. I try not to. It's a horrible experience. I still get Post-it notes from my mirror before I shower. Please cover me before you get.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, you need to punch
Great
that.
balls of fire. Sorry. How are you doing today? You doing all right?
I'm doing good. Back after a nice, lovely working vacation, which
Did you
which
get
was
me my
fun.
mask?
Did I what? Did I get you
my
your mask?
mask or my wand?
No, I forgot my own wand.
There goes my dignity. All right, I'm done. I'm out, guys. You have fun with the show. I'm out.
No, but I did get some wonderful feedback about you from my brother-in-law and my sister who watch the show.
What'd they say? Who's that
Yeah.
white dude, and why can't he get a tan?
They said, "Who is that fat Steven Seagal? He's really funny." And they are normies. They are straight up normies. Like my sister has said when she's come to the show, she's like, "Okay, now y'all are getting a little too nerdy for me." But she loves watching it. And my brother-in-law, he's just like, I don't get a lot of the nerd stuff, but when you explain it, I get it. And I kind of like it. So that's kind of some cool feedback to, even normies kind of, like the show.
I have a weird question. Why is your baby Yoda wearing a mask? I can see it behind you.
Yeah, he's always worn one. You can't
even see.
Yes, you can.
You can't. It's above his eyes. I can see it on your camera.
Okay.
All right. I think I'm excited. I'm glad he can make it today. Should we bring him out, or do you want to chit-chat some more or talk about my nudity?
You know what? Let's bring him up and then we'll acknowledge the chat because I'm really excited about this guest. So again, blew my mind when you told me he was coming on. So folks, I'd like to introduce or reintroduce to folks who know Pete Simeti of Alterna Comics. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, doing great. So thankful you could be here with us.
I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to it. When you were hyping up the show, though, and you were saying we've got a great guest, all this other stuff, I'm like, oh, who else is on?
Oprah.
He always says Oprah.
One day she'll show up with a free car and my self-respect. I'm really hoping for it.
I guess I'm kind of like comic book Oprah. It's like you get a comic and you get a comic and you get a comic. So
I would be evil Oprah in that sense. I'd like, you get a paper cut and you get a paper cut and you get a paper cut. But like on the inside of your fingers in between, so it'd be really painful every day.
You need like a gun, like the T-shirt cannon. Instead, you have like a comic book cannon and just got
that'd be great.
Rolled up comics.
It's a good idea for future conventions. Remember conventions?
Mm-hmm.
Those were great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I so remember those. Early in the morning, get there early. Try to get the stuff from the dealers' tables before the slim pickings and whatnot.
See, the only thing I'm kind of happy about conventions that are really going on right now is not walking in and seeing 80 booths, all with mystery boxes, all with old luggage. I can't get rid of. That's pretty much.
Oh, what shows are you going to? I don't see any of that there. I see big, gigantic walls of prints.
Oh, well, I'm up in Canada, right? So let's say Fan Expo and the one-day cons or two-day cons they do up here, like the Toronto Comic-Con. They literally, you'll go in after you get your bracelet, and before you actually get, like, say, like the exclusives table, before you go onto the floor, there's literally booths that have all these mystery boxes of what you could get and what you couldn't get. And they're like, well, you could win a PlayStation, you could win an Xbox in one of these boxes. I'm like, these boxes look too small to have a PlayStation or Xbox.
I've never seen that.
I'll find a picture one day and I'll show you guys.
That's oh man, cool. Well, while
They
he's
should have
doing
it
that,
set up like let's make a deal or something. You know, make a game show out of it.
I
here's what you win.
If you give me the real box.
Well, let me welcome the chat really quick, folks. Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics is graciously joining us today. We have Zachariah315 says, howdy, Lorena. Well, howdy to you, Zachariah315. So glad you're here with us. Positive Ego Gaming says, hi, Lorena. Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you, too. Mexican Iron Man, I see your super chat, but for some reason, I don't see. Okay, for some reason, StreamYards did not bring up your message, so I have to read it. So glad you are doing great. And let's see, now I can see it says, just got here. Hey, does Lunch Table offer special buffet discounts for Mexicans with one leg and a brace and in a wheelchair? No, didn't see any ADA blue parking spaces in front. I'm triggered.
I can attest, we do have a special chicken deal. You get a quarter leg and a wing. That's about it. That's it.
But we'll have to talk to groundskeeper Willie about why that ADA blue parking spot isn't out there. We'll have to deal with that. For those of you who don't watch The Simpsons, that was a Simpsons joke. And Pete's welcoming everybody being here today. Let's see. Oh, crap. Who gave you? Yeah, I had to give him a wrench, dude. Yeah, kind of had to. Wow. Hey, Anonymity T2. So glad you're here with us. I don't think I've seen you. A couple new people here today. So that's so awesome. And we have Willie Woodward, Reina Creole, Fat Steven Seagal, Beat Up Hill Doggo. Message me when it's good for both of you to do a live stream on my channel. Okay, yes, Fat Steven will get back to you about that. He knows my schedule better than I do.
I pretend to know better. I'm going to use that right now. I pretend.
Hey, Willie Woodward. Yes, Peter Simeti is an interesting character. Absolutely, absolutely. Diablo Dame, happy Friday all. Oh, in a good way, Peter. Seriously.
It's always that's how I describe some things sometime when I want to be nice. They're very interesting.
Where's the door?
Well, when my relatives want to do that, they'll add bless his heart to it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like, okay. Hey, Diablo Dame and Tina Bojan. Good afternoon, friends. Hello, Tina. I had the pleasure of meeting Tina while I was in Florida, and that little square needlepoint back there, I think I put a picture of it up on Twitter. That's like a little needlepoint that she made of me holding a Mickey balloon. So awesome, so much meeting her in person. Theme Park Casual says, hey, kids. Hey, Theme Park Casual, glad you are here. Keely Chow says, hey, everybody, good morning. Good morning, Keely, and roll tide. Cavitano Chase has just arrived from the Valkyries, permission to land. Yeah, I saw the viewer number go up, so that's how I know the Valkyrie show just ended, because theirs ends like a little bit before ours do. And let's see. Oh crap! I thought this was a pre-recorded thing. No, it's not. It's not pre-recorded. The Friday live streams are live, indeed. If you see Lorena's Lunch Table in the title, that's live. If you see a after-school special in the title, that is pre-recorded. We try to get lots of folks in here. So cool. 20 people watching. We welcome the chat. Our guest is Pete Simeti. So the first question we ask everybody is, what are your memories of lunchtime at school?
That's funny that you should say that, because a lot of my comic collection and even trading card collection too was started during lunchtime, because I would trade my food for those things.
Oh, cool.
So I would trade and I'd be aware of what was going to be going on. So I had some friends that they got a lot of comics. They liked comics, but they didn't really care about comics. It was just kind of the thing you did. You were a kid, you had comics and whatever. And one kid in particular, his dad got him like every comic. So he just really didn't understand or appreciate, I think, the fact that he was getting like every comic. But he had a bunch of issues all the time that I really wanted. And he liked the lunchroom pizza more than he liked comics. So eventually I got to learning about that, and I would trade him my pizza on Friday, sometimes maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on the issue, for the comic he had. And I would just kind of bring in like maybe a Snickers bar or something like that just to have at lunch. And he would get my pizza and I would get a comic. And I still have many of those. And a lot of them were actually really valuable and kind of rare issues. But you know, his pizza, I guess, lasted him the lunch, and I still have the comic, so I win.
Can I ask a quick question? First of all,
Yeah.
was the pizza square slices?
There you
Yeah, it
go.
was like that rectangle kind of, yeah, like Ilios on steroids.
Did you save any pictures of the pizza so I can stare at them for the next hour?
No, sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm out again, Mike.
It wasn't that good though. I didn't really like it, but this guy, he really did.
It's
sometimes
funny how often the square pizza thing comes up on the show.
Yeah, it's.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Go ahead.
Well, it's just, you know, I mean, it's kind of funny just thinking about lunch from back in the day, and that was elementary school. That wasn't like high school or anything like that. But it's funny to think about when I see a lot of my collection, when I look through it, and I'm thinking, wow, I got that at lunch. I got that for a pizza. I got that for a taco. I got that for a hamburger. And it's like, I still have it. You guys enjoyed your and school cafeteria. We're not talking about like a really nice pizzeria slice or like a great looking hamburger or whatever. This wasn't good food, but they liked it more than, I guess they valued it more than they valued the comic or the trading card. So I'm glad that they did, because I have all these great, awesome issues of things, and they don't.
That is freaking cool, because I've always heard of, you know, hey, I'm going to trade you, you know, my Doritos for
Like swapping food,
something.
right?
Exactly, swapping that out, which they won't let you do anymore. But for comics, that's freaking genius.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was always figuring out a way to get more comic books in my life. And just like nowadays, I often sacrifice food for comics.
I get it. I get it, because when I was older, I remember when I got my first job when I was in high school. Didn't earn a whole lot of money by the time I paid for other things. And it's kind of like, okay, I want to get a comic book. Let me scrap up a little bit of money, because after my job at the mall, I'd drive in my little beat up car to 7-Eleven, go to the spinner rack, see what issues I wanted, and then saw how much money I had, and then put the comics back that I couldn't afford, you know, to buy. But yeah, it was just like wanting to collect those, and decision between, do I have lunch money or do I go, you know, buy a comic book? And that's kind of like when I fell in love with comics back in the day. I still have like a stash from 20 years ago back, you know, in my room. I kind of fell out of it because life kind of got in the way. And then by the time I did want to get back into comics, and I'm asking a lot of my geek friends in IT, because in the IT field, it's such a geek dense environment between, you know, the gaming geeks, the comic geeks, the Star Wars geeks, the Star Trek. It's, you know, it's all like that. So I asked one of the comic book geeks, I'm like, so I'm into Marvel. So, you know, what's your thoughts on what's hot in Marvel and DC comics? And he says, I don't read those anymore. I said, excuse me? You're like really big in the comics. He's like, yeah, they used to be good, but now I'm into manga and anime. I'm like, okay, anime I know, manga I've never heard of. And why the switch? And he wasn't the first one, you know, to tell me that. I'm kind of like, well, why the heck is it? And just like, it's not interesting. So the follow-up question to ask you is how and why did you wind up starting up Alterna Comics?
It was it's 15 years ago. This is our 15th anniversary. So
Cool.
when I thought about doing it, it was mostly just a way to self-publish. And it seemed like a better name than, you know, Simeti Studios or Simeti Publishing or something else. I wasn't, you know, very creative. It had to be name centric around me. So then it was just like, well, I want an alternative to what's out there. Oh, okay, Alterna. And that's literally as simple as that was. And it seemed nice. It seemed like it was short and sweet, kind of memorable. It had the A and the A, so it kind of bookended the whole word. And then other than that, it was just mostly, well, I'll make these books. I'll learn how to make comics. I'll get more accustomed to writing, drawing, lettering, whatever, every single aspect of it. And then maybe I'll work at a publisher one day. I'll work, doing another book. And that was kind of what I thought around the time when I was around, I guess like 20 and a half. And when I created Alterna around sometime when I thought about it anyway, when I conceived the idea, and I was around 21, I just figured it was going to be a stepping stone in the process. And we got a lot of submissions at first. So the first 6 months, like I said, I didn't take it seriously. Our website was a MySpace page. Everything was just like landing back to just, okay, just look at these books and then that's it. And just interacting with readers and potential readers. And after getting a lot of submissions, I saw that there were so many people that were just having such a hard time breaking into the industry. People that were sending emails that I've been trying this for 10 years and, I just don't know the right people and I just can't seem to break through. And, my comic isn't, it's not mature enough. It's not all ages enough. It's always some kind of, it's not good enough. It's not for the right person kind of a thing. And a lot of these people were really talented and they were way better than I was. And so I just figured, well, maybe we'll try that, and I'll do a publishing company type thing, and we'll start small and see where that goes. And I figured there was strength in numbers, so might as well give it a shot. And now here we are, 15 years later. And I just, after 2 years of publishing, I just knew I wasn't going to be working for another publisher again. Between having the experience that I had, starting my own company, and then also talking to a lot of creators. That were working within the mainstream, the corporate industry.
Right.
It wasn't the place for me. Because even when I read comics as a kid, I wanted to make comics. I wanted to work on like Spider-Man or X-Men or something, but I didn't really care too much about necessarily writing Spider-Man. I wanted to like write Spider-Man, but it was more about creating other characters to interact with Spider-Man. So that was always my thing as a kid, was creating all these new characters, villains, heroes, whatever it was, to interact in that world with that main character. It wasn't about like my take on Spider-Man or my take on the X-Men. It was like, no, I like the way these characters are. I want to make new ones to interact with them. Kind of like the way little kids would play in a sandbox. You've got your toys and you've got the pre-established toys, and you know how those toys behave, you know how those characters are, and here's the new ones that you're making. So I kind of wanted to do that, but you find out quickly that that's not really how the industry works, and it's not tailored to making it so that you can create what you want to create and then have some kind of a stake in it, some kind of an ownership, so you could kind of care a lot more about the characters that you make. And the indie creator-owned way really spoke to me. So that was after a couple of years of doing that, and we've never looked back.
Cool. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Because I still love all the characters I grew up with. I mean, you guys can see there's stuff around me. My whole office is the characters and the art and everything else that I grew up with that I love. Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
But it's the kind of thing though that to love it as a fan of what it was and what it meant to me is different now than I would never. I can't get into the modern stuff. I can't get into anything past. I think the last actual mainstream comic book that I read was the first Marvel Civil War. After that, I was just, I can't do this anymore. This stuff just isn't going anywhere. It doesn't make any sense. It just seems pointless. It just seems like it's designed to do a bait and switch sort of thing. It just, everything felt like nothing really matters. So at that point in time, it kind of coincided as well with me wanting to create my own comics. And that's what that was. I absolutely love too nowadays seeing not just people creating their own comic, but I love the fact that they're being entrepreneurial about it, that they're taking steps to start their own businesses. They're taking it seriously. It's not just, oh, I want to, because when I started making comics, everyone just wanted to make a comic to make a comic. It was like, oh, well, as long as I could just make it and get it out there, that's good enough. It didn't really matter about selling. They didn't think about promoting. They didn't think about getting anyone else to really read it. It was kind of just like, oh, it'd be cool to just make one. And now it's so nice to see so many people thinking about all those other things, about promoting, about getting more readers, about respecting the reader, about showing gratitude to the reader, about tailoring maybe your storytelling style to get readers interested in your story because you're entertaining them. So it was that kind of a thing. And I love seeing that this is going on right now. It's great. I've been waiting 15 years to see this kind of a thing.
It's just amazing. Before I get back to a little bit, thank you, Willie Woodward, for the $2 super chat. Yes, no, you're not, you are not an idiot, dude. You are not an idiot. Don't even worry about that. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. I want to say about a week or so ago, we did a recorded interview with Mandy Summers, who's one of my co-hosts on Toxic Femme, and she's self-publishing her comics, and a lot of what she said resonates with what you're saying. And you were one of the names that she dropped when she was talking about, because for me, normie with comics, about the time that I dropped out of getting back interested into it, is exactly what you were talking about. The stories didn't really seem engaging. People didn't really seem excited about mainstream comics. They were excited, I think, like about Dark Horse Comics. They were into Spawn. They were into, manga. They were into like publishers that I hadn't freaking heard of like ever before. And that seemed to be the thing. And I hope Fat Steven comes back, because we lost him again.
Yeah, where did he go?
I don't know. I think he probably went to go get a nugget, probably that I hid somewhere. But one of the things that I like, because I was watching a couple of your interviews, and also online, where it comes to for your passion for comics. I had the fun of being on a live stream a couple of weeks ago where we were watching the DC Fandom event. And they had some of the comic creators that were on there. And I'm just like, do you like your job? Because you don't seem like you like your job. Even granted, Stan Lee wasn't doing a lot of ink, later on to his years. He still seemed hype about his comics. And these people were just like, yeah, I drew this. Yeah, we had this story. Yeah, we had that story. And it's just like, if you're not interested in your product, why the heck should I be interested in your product?
Yeah, I've said this before. I actually said it the other day during our 15th anniversary show, that if they don't see a creator excited about the stuff that they're doing, they're not going to get excited about it. If you're just sort of like, yeah, I made this book, I guess, and this happens. People are going to be like, all right, on to the next one. Who's excited about the book they made? I want to read that one. And it's not just, again, like mentioning Stan Lee, that kind of enthusiasm for the comics that he was a part of, the comics that the creators that he knew, the characters that he created. He wasn't someone either. There he is.
Sorry about that.
He wasn't someone either that just owned all of his stuff. So he was just he was obviously a company man in terms of pushing Marvel, but it felt more like he was pushing all of comics. I mean, even my parents thought that Stan created DC, Batman, Superman, all those guys. They thought that just Stan Lee had created all of comics because his enthusiasm was across the board. It felt like you didn't need to read Marvel to be a part of Stan's club in that kind of a way. It just felt like you needed to read comics. And I think that was the most important part.
Yeah, it was just awesome. Even when I was down at Universal Studios and rode the Spider-Man ride, there's like a scene in there, a part of the setup where Stan Lee is driving the truck that you almost run into. And it's like you get a rush just seeing his likeness in there. Like, wow, he's actually, in the ride. He was just that passion coming from him. Yeah, it's just like it didn't matter if you were deep into comics or maybe so. He just wanted you to be enthusiastic and like what he had a part in creating.
Can I ask a question, if that's okay? Because
absolutely, Stephen. I was ready to kick it to you, and you disappeared.
I know my ISP has been douchebag lately.
And Willie, I will get to your question. You have it with a super chat. I will get back to that as soon as Stephen asks his question.
Peter, what I wanted to know is, first of all, who is your favorite comic? Who is your favorite independent artist? And what would you like to see in the future from either of those?
What was the first part? Was it favorite comic?
Who is your favorite comic character or comic book line? Who is your favorite independent comic creator, if you have one? And what would you like to see in the future from either one of those two favorites?
My favorite comic, if I had to think about it, of all time, it'd probably be a toss-up between, it wouldn't really be a toss-up. It's just, I'm going to look at the amount that I have. I definitely have far and wide more X-Men comics. Chris Claremont, to me, it was like Chris Claremont, John Byrne, and then Silvestri, Lee, all those guys. That was X-Men mostly for me. As far as independent artists goes, man, there's so many good ones right now.
It's a hard question.
There's so many good ones right now. Yeah. A couple that I'm really excited about. I don't want to say working with, and I don't want to say I'm excited about anything in this capacity that gives anything away. So I'll just say I'm really excited about their work and what's to come for them. Guys like Rob Willis, guys like now, I know he wasn't independent for a while, but he's independent now, which is so great to see. Kenneth Rocafort, guys like Eric Canetti, who is starting to become more and more independent in terms of being a comic creator. I think they're unbelievably talented, and they have a big, bright future ahead of them. Not to say that their current status is not big and bright too, but just seeing everyone improves over time too. So just seeing where those guys are at, and then, wow, you're still going to improve. It could be very discouraging, but it should be inspiring. So if anyone sees artists like that you're like, oh, they're so great, I should just stop. I'll never get that good. They were where you were at one point.
What, 2D and fat?
Well, maybe you, not, you directly.
I'm still 2D and fat. It doesn't matter.
I'm talking to the artists that might be watching that maybe are beating themselves up a little bit. But keep at it. It's hard work, but you're going to get there. Because that's where everybody was. Every one of your artistic heroes, that's where they were. They were all at the bottom too. They were all starting out and didn't know what was what, and all had their own heroes and inspirations that were like, man, I'll never get as good as that one or that one. So don't view it like that means you should stop. The other thing is, as far as wanting to see anybody combine, like you said, like maybe the artist with the favorite title that I had, I would like it if they just ended X-Men.
I wish they ended X-Men before that one issue with Wolverine crying into his adamantium claws after Cyclops played golf peg with him. I was
done even long before that. It's just more, to me, it's just the kind of thing where if the quality isn't going to be there, if the standards are kind of just as long as we've never done it before, it's great. A lot of the times you didn't do it before because it was horrible. So you should stick with that mindset.
I'd also like to say a third thing, because I like those answers. Those are pretty cool. You can also, if you know them personally, you can extend them an invitation. They're welcome to come on here if they want to promote their stuff or talk comics like you do. Like,
absolutely.
I would like to honestly see more people get a voice out if you honestly think they're doing so well. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Well, and also, I mean, it goes without saying, every single Alterna creator that we have an artist that's absolutely spectacular. His work, let me see.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
Here, let me blow you up with this one.
Christian Rossi does spectacular work. He's the artist on Trespasser, Voidwalker, and an upcoming title called Can't Kill Cade. And he does terrific work. He's an up-and-comer.
Touch that. Oh my, is that old newsprint? You guys still
yes, this is the newsprint.
Oh wow.
So it has that feel of like, I better not get ink on my fingers, but you don't care.
It does. It has that feel.
And that smell, I can hear the smell when you're turning the pages, and I'm like literally smiling with glee, like there's a pack of ribs in front of me.
It's fantastic stuff. And for those that have heard from other publishers, we can't do newsprint, it's going to look bad. It's going to look bad. No, it's going to look great. You just have to know what you're doing. And people love it. This is what comics were for.
Exactly. This is why I'm scared to open up my old comic books, because I don't want to mess them up, but I
But you
remember
can
that smell, that new comic newsprint smell. That's
you
what
can do that, and it's fine.
That is awesome. Like that's what I remember.
cool.
But yeah, I
It's
love the
funny
fact that
because
we have a lot of great creators here.
They all
Yeah.
have an invitation on this show.
Absolutely,
pass it on.
absolutely. That's comics is one of those things where I wanted to get back into, but mainstream seems so freaking boring. But ever since I've found out about indie comics, especially through people like you, Peter, because you were the first person that kind of popped up in my feed through other people that I knew who were doing independent comics. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, is this really worth my time? And then I'm clicking and I'm looking, I'm like, there's too many that I want.
There's so many. That's why when they're having this whole comics aren't diverse enough and this and that. It's like, no, your tastes aren't diverse enough. Comics have been diverse for a very long time. Don't just look for, like, if you want to see all these kinds of different characters, different stories, all these kinds of different visions out there, don't just look for the big mainstream corporate stuff. There's thousands upon thousands. There's so many comics out there that you probably have never read, will never read, and no matter what, even if you read every single one of them every day, just nonstop, did nothing but read comics, don't sleep, don't eat anything, you still wouldn't get through all the comics that are out there in your lifetime. So I hate hearing from people, oh, there's just not enough of this and that and whatever in comics. No, look for it. It's out there.
I had a secondary part B. Do you have any your creators that are actually on the brink or more in the manga side when it comes to art style or not? Is there any issues that I should like kind of dwell into? Because I'm kind of like an old like Trigun Sailor Moon kind of guy at the same time.
This isn't manga, but this book is called Red Koi. It's a samurai. It's a story of a samurai that comes home and she realizes her whole I guess her whole family, her father's destiny and his legacy it waits for her as well, and she doesn't like that because he was awful and corrupt and vicious and cruel. But there's all kinds of crazy stuff because this is like a fantasy story too. There's gigantic, there's like a gigantic, huge, horrible looking spider in here too that she comes across. It's at the very end of issue 1. And he's kind of been, entombing all kinds of different people that her father has killed over the years and all this other stuff. So she's discovering all this stuff on her ancient ancestral home when she comes back, and it's not a good time for her. But Tyler Wentland does this, and Nick Welch does the colors on the book, and they are a spectacular team.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, we got so many great stuff here. So many great books. Another one too that I think maybe you might like would be Legends of Log. So Legends of Log is a fantasy adventure book about this character Log, who is protector of the North Woods. And it's an anthology type book where all these different little adventures that Log has, battling different creatures that want to destroy the forest, the animals, the people around. And Log has to protect them. He meets new friends and foes along the way.
It has a never-ending story kind of look to it. And at the same time, it's reminding me of the Log commercial they had in Ren and Stimpy.
Oh my God! That's just what I was thinking of.
This is like him, but if he got bitten by a radioactive
twig
woodsman.
That is awesome. I like seeing those unique type of comics out there. But before I forget, 27 people watching, thank you so much. Please hit that like button. Our guest is Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics, and we have a question from
Willie,
one of our viewers here, from Willie, and he says, thank you again, Willie, for the $5 super chat. Hey, do you think there is any way to make money making superhero comic floppies, or should one just turn to making manga or crowdfunding?
I think you're asking a question that I think you can interpret in a couple different ways. So you can absolutely make money with superhero comic floppies. I mean, look at what so many people are doing right now, even in terms of combining it with crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is a tool to sell your comic. It's not necessarily the comic itself. It's not the storytelling device. It's not anything like that. It's just about getting it out there to people. So whatever you do, I recommend definitely researching, looking into crowdfunding. It's going to be a very important part moving forward, as especially an independent comic creator. If you're talking about superhero books in terms of the mainstream, the corporate comics and things like that, I think they absolutely, positively could still be unbelievably successful and very popular. They just have to look at what the core nature of these characters is. They have to look at maintaining that standard of quality. And also, don't just go out there and say, well, we're going to do this and that to the character and spice them up and change them and do whatever. It's not about changing the characters. It's about changing the world around them. Just like it is for us with life. The world around us changes. We rarely ever change. And when we do, it's because we're adapting to the world around us. When characters just go through these weird sudden changes out of nowhere, characters that we're supposed to be emotionally invested in, and that's why you like these characters. That's why you would purchase a Batman shirt or a poster or whatever it may be.
Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man, anything.
Ooh, that reminds me.
It's because you're emotionally invested. So if you say to this person, don't be emotionally invested anymore because we just want to change things up. This character, love, you've spent decades with, maybe you grew up with your whole life. They've been consistently a certain way. Think of it like a person. And now they're just all of a sudden, they're not at all who you knew them to be.
Right.
That's a frightening experience.
Yeah,
to
it
have
is.
that emotional connection, and now that character just is not anything at all. And not like it's for an issue where like, oh, someone took over, and now they've brain swapped.
Body snatcher.
No, it's not a what if. The perfect representation of that, I hate bringing this up over and over again, is the way they treated Star Wars or say Doctor Who at the same time. But what did you think of that latest Spider-Man costume that came out with the white that has the green outline that kind of looks like a glow-in-the-dark sticker? What did you think of that?
Hey, Project Storytime.
I think that's something for an issue. I think that's you put that in an issue that Spidey can't get to his costume, something happened to it or whatever, and he's just in Avengers, he's in Stark Tower. It used to be called Avengers Tower, but and he just finds this suit, this experimental new technological suit that Tony's working on. He just puts it on just cuz, and that's the issue. And maybe it's like a 2 or 3 parter at most. Yeah. And that's kind of it. And it would introduce this new tech or whatever, but it's not supposed to be like a new Spider-Man costume. We all love like the black suit and all that other stuff.
Hell yeah, Secret.
That was good.
Yeah. But they introduced it with storytelling. And then it had all these ramifications for the character. It had all of this stuff. And then it turns into Venom. And then there's all ramifications. So it goes on and on and on. So it's all this stuff that, again, it feels like these are the characters. You know them. You've been following their lives. And things are happening to their lives. Whereas now you're very abundantly clear that when you're reading this, it just in your mind, you're like, why'd they have to write it like that? As soon as you're a reader and you're going, why did they have to create? Why did someone else have to create it like this? Why did they do that? As soon as you start thinking of the person that's at the keyboard or the artist that's just drawing it and probably either happy or lamenting or whatever it is that's going on, as soon as you're aware of the creator behind the book that's just sitting there and they made this decision and you're pulled out of the world, now it turns into, oh man, your suspension of disbelief is just gone. And now every single thing you read, every single thing you look at with that character is you're aware constantly that someone could have made this differently, instead of the fact that, oh, this is the character's life. This is how they're living it. And these are the events that are occurring. So and there's always a fine line between that with fiction, always. And it's a difficult thing to master, but they did it so well for so long. They really did. And I feel like now it's so much about the writer kind of turning things upside down because they want to make a mark for themselves. Whether it upsets or pleases a reader doesn't matter. It's more about, well, I want to put my own stamp on this character, regardless of what came before. And I think that's what they're struggling with, and that's what they want to be independent comics. How funny is that? They want to be creator-owned independent comics driven with creator vision, but they're using characters that are pre-established for so long. So maybe if they did it with their own character, and this was just a Spider-Man or whoever, and it was their own unique vision, you're talking about maybe that's a hit for an indie creator. But when it's tied to a character that's already existing, there's already emotional attachment there, there's a history, you have to respect and understand that history.
You really do, because for someone who is a reader of that particular comic, we know the history, we know what's going on with the character, we understand their rich story. So when you do your own thing without in regards to what came before, that's like a slap in the face to the reader, and it's a disrespect to that lore that's been built up. Because I know there's some, comic book artists out there who are just like, I can't wait to go into this character's past and look at maybe the paths that asked, like, what if it could have went this way? What if it could have went that way? And go from there. So when the reader's reading it, they're just like, yeah, I do remember when that happened. And that's kind of cool, how they went that way, as opposed to, forget everything that you saw before. I'm going to go do my own thing, and you're going to like it.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about all the books at Alterna, and so much about the indie creator type movement in general, is because everything feels so official. Everything feels like these stories matter. These stories are straight from the creator, the way they intended it to be. And as a reader, because that's mostly what I am as a publisher, I'm a reader first. So I'm reading all of these, I'm looking at all of them. And when these books get me excited and they make me want to go, I want to see more of this. Or when they really shoot off a lot of bells and I'm like, man, I don't want to purchase this from another publisher. That's when I know I have to publish it. I'd rather put all the time and money into publishing the book here than spend $5 at whoever else and have their logo in the corner.
I had a weird question. You remember the old Choose Your Own Adventures books, right?
Yeah.
Do you think comic books have a chance of pulling that off in any way possible?
They could, but I mean, you'd have to have such an immensely talented writer to do that, and then artist as well to be able to pull that off. But I think you could. I think they absolutely could. They just have to look at it in a certain way. Yeah,
I miss those books. I used to spend hours on them.
Yeah, I know of a couple different indie creators that have tried stuff like that, and to varying degrees of success. But I think they could pull it off. So Willie's got an interesting question here.
Yeah, he says, thank you, Willie, for another $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your support of my channel. He says, true, but with CF, there's certain stories you can't tell, like having a bunch of self-contained stories or even anthologies that introduce new stories.
That means comic franchise.
Statement. Yeah.
As much as I like you, Willie, I'm going to have to say that you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I can even agree with that. I'm sorry.
So I'll tell you this. At Alterna, we just did an Indiegogo campaign, raised $45,000. That was primarily, we didn't put out any new books, really. That wasn't the focus of the campaign. The focus of the campaign was to reprint a lot of our sold out or close to being sold out issues, because a lot of readers were missing out on them. And we also offered other things like merchandise, collector cases and stickers, hoodies, hats, whatever it is. So that was primarily what it was. And not all of our issues at Alterna, but a lot of our issues at Alterna are self-contained. And then all of them are not a universe. So every single Voidwalker, Red Koi, Legends of Log, Mr. Crypt, Mighty Mascots, they're all universes unto themselves. We have like 40 different universes that we've published over the years, if you want to look at it that way. So all of those books, they can go to crowdfunding. Mighty Mascots raised almost $20,000. And that was just to fund 3 new issues. Just 3 new issues of the story. And we've also had anthologies. The If anthology for 4 years went to crowdfunding every single time. There's tons of anthologies too on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, crowdfunding in general. Almost too many. And they get funded. People like them. So you can absolutely do that. And for self-contained stories for floppies, just combine a bunch at a time. So you're getting, so you're not just funding $5 an issue at a time or whatever, but maybe tell 4 or 5 issues and then do your math on it to how much you need to raise. But if you just want to do one issue at a time and you're just starting off, you could do that too. Just, again, tailor your expectations. Make sure you're curbing things a bit and understand that when you're starting off and you're new, you need to gain readers and you need to gain trust first and foremost. You need to prove to them that you can do it, that you can deliver, that you can do this thing. Because if you go in there, and I see a lot of first-time crowdfunding creators do this, they go in there, they see someone like Ethan or whoever else, or myself or anybody else going into this, and they're like, oh, I'll price things out the way they're pricing them out. I'll do them the way they're doing them. And then they don't have anything close to the same level of success, and then they beat themselves up. You don't have the 20, 30 years or whatever it is that someone else might have. You didn't do and go through everything that they did to get to where they got to get to. So look at it as any other kind of job. You're starting at the bottom and you're working your way up, and treat it as such. And you want to gain readers more than anything. And this is coming from a publisher that we're putting $1.50, $1.99 books out there now. And it completely revitalized and saved in many ways our publishing company. And we started that in 2017.
Wow.
So we went from just graphic novels for almost 10 years or so. We started with print on demand in the beginning for a year or two. And then when we got distribution, we did graphic novels and stuff like that for 10, 11 years. We even had a New York Times bestseller in there, which was a Fubar Empire of the Rising Dead back in 2012. And yeah, and even with that, by the time 2015 rolled around, I'm noticing every single person, every single publisher putting out trades, putting out graphic novels, doing things that they said when we started doing it in 2008, they're going to fail. That's crazy. Who would do that? They're not doing any single issues. That's nuts. And then they all started putting that stuff out and they flooded the market. So I noticed that our sales were plateauing and in some cases tanking because they weren't allowed to be on the shelf as long as they were before. The shelves were crowded. Everything was flooded. Before they would get 6 months to a year to sell at bookstores. Now they got a month or two. They were being treated like periodical comics, single issues. And to just have that turnover cycle so quickly for a graphic novel that you sit there and think, oh, it's a graphic novel. It's evergreen. It's going to be there for, 5 years. And then it's there for a month or two. And then they decide, no, it didn't sell. We got to destroy it. They don't return it back and you get to sell it again or anything like that. They destroy it. That's what happens in the book. So once I saw that, I figured we got to zig when everyone else is zagging, and we put out a 4 single issues, and the newsprint allowed us to do that. So there's ways to do anything you want to do.
I have 2 other quick questions though, Peter. First of all, you guys do international shipping, right? Because I live in Canada.
Correct.
I don't know what the rates are. And secondly, you can just send all your swag or anything now to Lorena's lunch table whenever you want, and we will give you the thumbs up.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate it too. I'm looking at that too, and I'm just like, I gotta get one now.
Well, we have. I think we have the hats right now. They're on. We have hats, shirts, and the hoodies and things like that will be available eventually on alternaaccess.com. But we have all kinds of merchandise on alternaaccess.com. They're like $15 to $20 or something like that for hats and shirts. That's awesome. And then yeah. And then shipping rates internationally, I wish we had more control over that, but we unfortunately don't. So it's that's a pretty penny. Yeah,
for internationally, I've noticed is killed. Even whether it's Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or anything. When it comes to the shipping rates, like that $30 US is almost 50 Canadian just to get one book. It's like,
Thanks, Stephen Yarnell, for joining us. Thank you so much. So glad you're here, folks.
I definitely recommend, if you live outside the US, though, order 6 to 8 issues, because then you'll maximize the shipping costs, because 1 pound to 2 pounds is the same. So you want to make sure you're ordering as many as you can.
The collector cases, does that come with comics in it or not? I never did my research.
We used to have first issues come with it, but then the first issues were selling out so fast that what was listed with the collector case, we couldn't guarantee it. So now it's just the collector case is the case, and then you can purchase the comic separately.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we're running a 15% off sale right now for our 15 years. So just if you go to alternaaccess.com and just type all caps, no spaces, 15 years, 15 years, you'll get 15% off your total order.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. I
So,
love God, I love a freaking sale. So I have one last question to kind of take us out really quick. My nephew, he's like 20 and he loves art. He's an artist. He loves drawing. He loves comics. So my question is, in your opinion, do you think that it is necessary for someone to go to, say, a traditional art school in
Mhm.
order to be successful in drawing comics, and why?
No,
Why or why
no,
not?
absolutely not. And I think it's kind of funny too that you bring that up, because it's a very famous story with Jim Lee, that he went to college not for art but for the medical industry, and he did art on the side, and then he pretty much begged his parents, "Oh, give me a year or two, and if I don't make it, then whatever, I'll go and just do a life as a doctor or whatever." But there's so many wonderful artists out there that they didn't go to art school, and sometimes art school, I find that they're more about teaching. The teachers are more about teaching you how to do their style and their method, as opposed to learning how to do something for yourself. I went to school for
Mm,
graphic design, and I also took fine art courses in the process. And I was blessed with having 2 or 3 really good teachers that were about having you explore how to get from point A to point Z in your own way. But then there were also teachers that the second you deviated, they just wanted you right back in line, which is it may be odd to hear me say that about an art school, because you would think,
yeah.
oh, they're encouraging, independent thought, and being creative is all about doing things your own way. But so often that's not the case.
Do
So
you, sorry, do you think that when these artists or independent artists who want to be, like, say, comic book illustrators or the panel designers, do you think that they attend these types of classes or college focused, it will taint their own art style from flourishing the way they want to draw something? Do you think it has that negative effect more than a positive effect?
yes and no, because it's unfortunate. It all matters on who's teaching it. And I know the Kubert School has been really good for a lot of people, but then for other people too, it hasn't been that great. But from what I've seen with the Kubert School, they're the closest and best thing you're going to get if you want to be in the comic industry, to learn composition and how to tell a story as a comic book artist or writer. That's probably going to be the best place to go. But other than that, honestly, if you're someone who can really take your favorite comic book and study it panel by panel, really analyze, why did they put placement of characters here? Why is the word balloon there? Look at the fact that maybe the balloon, it's not touching certain aspects of the panel. It's placed in a certain way. Really analyze the comics you love. Don't analyze the comics, and too many people do this way too often. They analyze the comics of today. And I'll see submissions all the time where I'm like, this person is using Marvel and DC or whoever it is today as the standard for what their comics should look like. Don't do that. Look at the comics you really love, the comics that got you falling in love with creating comics, and really study those and study what they did, how they did it. And honestly, just try. I'm not going to say try to trace it in place and recreate it and sell it or anything like that, but try to redraw it and learn, because you're establishing muscle memory at that point, and you're teaching yourself how to instinctually create comics that really will tell the story the way you want to tell it. But I'm finding, again, too many people are doing things like, oh, well, the big companies are doing it this way right now, I should do it that way. Don't do that.
And a little side thing, because I'll ask Lorraine to share the screen afterwards. Have you heard of an artist within the Twitter or on YouTube called Macany90? Have you seen any of his artwork by chance?
It's very familiar sounding, but I don't think I have.
Very black and white, very marker oriented. After Lorena promotes your site, I'll let her share the picture. But he is an artist I think has a way to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, just coincidentally, the little icon up here in the right corner, that's Macany90's artwork. And he actually did this in black and white. And he normally does black and white and marker work. But I asked for something in color, and he produced this. So, which is, I love it. he's done work that's just been like absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. So just a little side note.
Oh, is this a plug for me to consider him for a job?
No, what I was trying to say is, no, not a job, but I would like to promote him because he does a lot of work for other people and he's very busy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show a picture of like his artwork and seeing whether or no if you know anyone that might be looking for an artist that would be in his style. Because we like promoting you just as much as we like promoting other people who
I'll take a look. Absolutely. And that's something too that I recommend. A lot of people always go, well, I'm a writer, I can't draw for anything. Where do I find an artist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to the social media, it turns into just, pick up a quarter and just throw it into social media and you're going to hit an artist. So don't sit there thinking, I can't find anyone. Put it out there of the story you're creating, the kind of artist you're looking for.
This is Matt Kinney's
take samples. Oh, very nice.
He does a lot of stop motion of his pictures afterwards, so you can actually watch him draw the whole thing. But he's very talented, and I think he deserves a shout out once in a while.
Absolutely.
He's difficult as hell, though. That's right, Mackinac. You're difficult.
Yeah, I said he's only difficult to you, right?
That's difficult to everyone, man. Come on, I can do that. Thank you, Lorraine, for letting me do that.
Oh no problem. Happy to share about our artists in the community, because another reason that I did this particular show, and we did have him on, is to promote people in the fandom and promote that talent within the fandom and kind of bring it up to on people's radars, as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, that's important. I mean, almost every Monday night, I didn't do it this previous one, but the first one of the year will be on the 11th. I do an open mic Monday at 9:00 Eastern. So if anyone wants to join that to promote their comic, their work, their channel, their crowdfunder, whatever it may be, you get 5 minutes. Yeah, you get 5 minutes to, you could do that if you'd like. If you've got a carpet cleaning service, a window washing service, I don't care.
I'm just on an unending quest to find my self-respect. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
So yeah, you could go and subscribe to you should subscribe to the Alterna channel, Alterna Comics on YouTube, but also the Publishin Pete channel on YouTube.
Yes, and we have those links that are in the description for the video, so you can go back. No problem, absolutely. So you can go to the links for Publishin Pete's channel and also for Alterna Comics channel, so you can check out those. So definitely check out the website. Follow Pete if you're not already on Twitter. We have his link also in the description to his Twitter.
Why does Blood Realm look like Souls?
Which one?
Blood Realm. That knight, it has such a familiar feel of Solaire from the Dark Souls series.
Oh, cool. Well, before we head out, Pete, is there anything additional you'd like to make the folks here aware of?
I don't know. I mean, we've got so much going on at Alterna. It's crazy. This year, though, I just want to thank everybody, because 2020 was the year that was, and it could have been our last year. And I'm glad that we left Diamond in April. It was the best thing we ever did. We've been doing better than ever since we left them. It's enabled us to do so much more. And I know you're thinking, well, what could you have possibly done? So one of the things, and I'll just only say just the one that meant a lot to me and to a lot of the other creators too. We had a lot of these books that are mini series, and then we would go for the next arc back to number 1, and then 1 of 4, 1 of 5, whatever it is. And we did that primarily to stay afloat in the Diamond system, because numbers just go. And this isn't necessarily the fault of Diamond so much as it's just, this is the nature of the beast. But the only way that is a fault with Diamond, and I'll get to this in a second. So number 1 would be here, and then 2, 3, 4, and then it would just, they would cancel your book eventually. So if you had an ongoing that was, then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever it was, usually by the time you get to issue 6 or 7, you're staring cancellation in the face. Nice. So I'm so glad we were able now to do ongoing numbering with a lot of these books. A lot of the creators are happy about that too, where they can maybe one day hit issue 10, 25, or 50, or who knows. I mean, these things matter to the creators, and they actually matter a lot to the readers too. The readers hate the constant going back to that. I hated everything about that. And we had to do that. And I guess this is where it is Diamond's fault. Whoa. Is that
I'm
like
so sorry. I am so
Oh, fire.
That's a hell of a hey, it's an hour, enough.
Yeah.
I'm on the 21st floor, okay, and you guys heard that.
Wow.
Yeah.
They were driving by, so someone plugged in a toaster.
Man.
Oh my god, go away!
Diamond really doesn't want me to talk about the thing I was going to talk
No.
about. So this is where Diamond does come into play with how they handle things. We had over 16,000 copies sold, lost, that were reorders because Diamond would not fulfill them. They would not tell us, hey, you got to send these into us. They would just let them auto cancel. And if they don't send us a purchase order for it, they cancel it. That's it. So I would be there constantly going back and forth, constantly with our brand manager saying, look, I see this book's got 300 back ordered right now. Can we send these to you? It's going to cancel out. And they're like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough to send in. I'm like, okay, well then this book with this other book, now we're talking over 1,000 issues this month. Can you give us a purchase order? Very rarely did they ever do that. And we lost over 16,000 orders. Retailers lost over 16,000 orders of just our books in 2.5 years. So it made growing a series absolutely impossible. Because if a series sells out, because the retailer is ordering relatively conservatively, because they don't want to take too big of a gamble.
Right.
But then they go, oh man, everyone wants this book. I got to get it. And then they can't get it. Their likelihood then of ordering issue 2, issue 3, it falls precipitously. So it makes it impossibly difficult unless you want to just start throwing money at Diamond for advertising, which is always what they recommend. They don't recommend any other strategy. They just say, take out an ad in previews if you want more sales. And I say, okay, well, your ad costs like $700 to $800. I'm going to sell whatever more books, but I'm not even going to break even on the ad. So you guys make more money with the ad and the sales, but we don't make anything. They didn't like that part. So we're not with Diamond anymore. I'm glad we're not. So if you're looking to get our books in shops, let your local shop know. They can go to alternaaccess.com/retailers and sign up really easily. They get a bigger discount with us than they would have through Diamond. And then they can start getting books on their shelves again from us. About maybe 50 or 60 shops already do that. But let your shops know.
Well, you got the directive, guys. Let your comic shops know. Order directly from Alterna.
Am I allowed to say Diamond can live long and suck it? Am I allowed to say that?
Sure, whatever.
You're allowed to say that.
All right, Diamond, you can live long and suck it.
Well, folks, that's going to wrap up our show with Pete Simeti of Alterna Comics. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful. Thanks so much to you guys in the chat, bringing your energy and your awesome questions. We so appreciate that. And take care, and we will see you the next show. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, damn it, I got internet. So much like that.